Ladies and gentlemen, let it never be said that we here at the fine wrestling infotainment institution known as Wrestling with Egos do not have one eye firmly trained on the future, because that's what tonight is all about. We are talking about the future of this great sport of professional wrestling. We were going to get to that real soon, but first, it's Wrestling with Egos. It's the Lean Mean Wrestle Talking Machine. It's what you've all been waiting for your wrestling week. I am Brian, the intellectual savior of the wrestling masses, and I am joined this week by the big man, Isaac. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I'm ready to get at it. And I'm also joined from across the pond by our good brother from England, Katie Hinken. How are you, sir?
I am very good, thank you very much. And to anyone watching or listening, please visit kdcomedy.com and have a look around on that, just because it helps me very much. And it makes it
we're
look
all
like
about that cross promotion. And we also want to...
I was not fucking finished. Right, thank you.
Well, if you're not finished, then
Thank you very much. I wanted to say also, it makes me look like people like me. Now I'm finished.
Oh, we always want to feel like we're liked, even though we might not be. You know, it might be a reach sometimes.
There is a section on there for projects outside of the KD comedy stuff. So Wrestling with Egos is on that picture. So any Wrestling with Egos stuff we'll throw on there too.
Nice.
Yeah.
KD has a pretty extensive reach over there in the UK. So any support you can send his way, folks, is going to be massively appreciated. And speaking of support that we massively appreciate your support as well. However you're consuming us this week, whether it's on Google, Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon, or on YouTube, whatever platform you consume us on, we appreciate it. Make sure you're liking, subscribing, and sharing. Leave us a comment. We're at whatever platform you're on in that 5-star review, because your feedback makes us better. That's going to be the next t-shirt. Your feedback makes us better.
Once again, not me, because I don't read it.
Well, you know, I take it to heart, maybe a little too much, you know. I get feedback all the time about, hey, say the name of the podcast, you dummy. But this is Wrestling with Egos, and we're going to start tonight with something that we haven't done in a while. We're going to do a little quick fire segment, because there's probably some people out there in Wrestling with Egos land that want to become a little bit more familiar with our wonderful panel. So we're gonna.
Wait, we're not gonna get naked, are we?
No, we're not gonna do that. That's not on the content for this week. I would have covered that in the pre-show meeting. Trust me.
We're waiting for Patrick, our tribal savior. We'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But basically, what it's gonna be, is we're gonna go around the table. We're gonna fire some questions off each other. We're not gonna take too long to think about it. We're just gonna get in there, give an answer, maybe a small couple-second explanation about it. We're going to move on to the next one before we get into our discussion of the future of the wrestling business. So, Isaac, I am going to start with you, and I want you to share with everybody, what is a wrestling stipulation that you think is underutilized? And if you say Punjabi prison match, so help me God, I will end this podcast right now, and we're done. It'll be the shortest episode ever at 5 minutes and 13 seconds.
You wouldn't be wrong, though.
And thank you. Good night. We love you. Come back.
We love you.
No, I think the best one for me is 2 out of 3 falls. Just because you get to see one person's going to take one fall, one person's going to take another fall, or I'm sorry, it's a 2-part question, but if you're having a best of 5 series with 2 great athletes and them going back and forth, just seeing the best creative ways that they can make this happen for the future. That's it. Sorry.
I like that. I mean, a 2 out of 3 falls match is great, because as I understand it, you're going to get different kinds of wrestling in each fall. You know, usually. You know, if you've got a submission guy versus a catch-as-catch-can guy, that's going to be a clash of styles. If you've got a brawler versus a technical person, you know, There's a lot of opportunity for storytelling.
Yeah, and each
as
one's
well.
like a different act as well, because you get like the surprise roll up a lot of the time for the first one, which makes sense. Most
Katie,
devastating
what about
move in
you?
all of wrestling.
What stipulation do you think is underutilized today?
You know what? I'm not gonna lie. I was 2 out of 3 falls would have been one of the ones I'd have thought, and best of like 5 series and all that as well. That's great. Maybe a good old fashioned tournament. Not so much in AEW though, obviously. More WWE. If not that, I don't know. Maybe ladder matches are not utilized as well as they should be. I would, you know what? I would have said Hell in a Cell, but that's changed now.
Yeah, I mean, a ladder match. I think you don't see as many of them as you used to because of the risk involved. I think people are understanding now, kind of going back to our safety discussion from a couple of weeks ago. Anytime you introduce an inanimate object into, something that's already, let's face it, kind of dangerous, like professional wrestling.
A little bit.
There's a lot more margin for error, or a lot less margin for error, excuse me.
Yeah.
For me, I think a submission-only match is underutilized because I feel like if you find yourself in one and you're not a submission-based wrestler, it forces you to get better at it. Like if you're going into the training for it, you've got to you go to your coach or you go to your producer or whoever. If you're working with WWE, you go to Matt Bloom and you say, okay, I need to learn some submissions for this match.
Yeah, it can be a reason to give you like one. It can be a storyline to like debut like a whole new finisher, like John Cena with the SCFU.
Right. So for me, that would be, something that I would love to see more of. Isaac, fire away with one of your questions, please.
Okay. To either of you, I'll go this to Katie first. Who is the greatest luchador not named Rey Mysterio?
Like Grace, whenever.
The greatest luchador.
Okay.
That's not named Rey Mysterio.
My mind was going to straight away. I'll be honest. Ultimo Dragon. So my mind was going.
Okay, I'm there.
For me, I got to go Jushin Thunder Liger because I've only seen a few matches of his. One of which was a Tyler Breeze match in NXT, and I think it was 2014 or 2015 or whatever it was. But every Jushin Thunder Liger match I've seen has been mind-altering because the guy, first of all, the mask itself is just so much bigger than other people wear. So, I mean, he's got to be good and have control to be able to wrestle in that kind of a mask.
I assume it's soft.
Probably, you would hope. That would be my shout on that one. KD, you've got a question for everybody. Fire away.
Most attractive lady in wrestling. Lady wrestler.
Right now, Roxanne Perez. Although of the 4 horsemen, my favorite has always been Bayley. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. Yeah, I don't know what it is about her either. But when they came out, she was the one that I was drawn to.
It's a double B. That's what it is.
It's what?
The double B.
Probably.
Do you know what a double B is?
I got a pretty good idea. I'm not going to say it on air though.
Okay, I'll prefer to leave it hanging in that case. Yeah.
We can talk about it after.
There you go.
Okay. Are we talking now or are we talking forever?
Forever?
Take it wherever you want.
Lita, hands down.
Very good answer.
I'm talking about Lita when she first got in WWE. Lita, that Lita with the Hardy Boys. There it is.
She didn't start off with them though.
No, she did not. I know who.
Start off with them either, but I'm just saying.
Rios.
Essa Rios is who she started off with.
That hair. Oh.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, that's all I can say.
How would you answer that question, KD?
you know, it would have been possibly Liv Morgan before because there's just something about her. I don't know what it is. But you know what? Now maybe I would say Trish Stratus because back in the day, of course, she was Trish. But even now, my God, lady's got
The
even
promo
prettier.
that she cut the other night on Raw,
That's good.
probably the best women's promo I've heard in 5 years.
Yeah, man.
I mean, Becky Lynch has cut some fire promos in her time, you know, especially like since she's discovered the man persona and stuff
Yeah,
like that, you know, and running down Ronda Rousey all the time. But Trish Stratus
Little
reminded
freak.
everybody how to cut a promo.
Yeah, man. To be fair, like that was really good. You can tell that she's been like kept like her eye on things or studying it since she's come back.
Of
She's
course,
into it,
you
you know.
don't forget about me. Don't forget who I am. You know, that kind of thing. Gentlemen, your favorite current AEW performer?
Oh, that's a good one. Probably MJF.
Okay.
As soon as he starts talking, I just can't help but listen.
And he can more than acquit himself in the ring too, which
Yeah.
is why he gets away with it.
Yeah. Wrestling to me is always should be always more story driven, which is why I probably think I have more of an always had more of a liking towards WWE because that's just like they focus on.
Okay.
So I always think about that more so first. But yeah, he's good in the ring, of course.
Okay, my question is it wrestler or sports entertainer? Which one is it?
Doesn't matter.
They're not necessarily mutually exclusive.
Look, and I'm gonna give you two different things in different aspects. Kenny Omega when he's wrestling by himself, because Kenny is. I know that's just a cop out to a lot of people, but I've been liking.
No, it's not. It's
I like what Kenny's doing outside the box.
I'd argue it's not a cop out either. It's just wrong.
To each their own.
Sorry.
I mean, his talent cannot be denied.
Oh no, he's great
as a person, as on the microphone, whatever. I mean,
he's all right on the mic. I think Kenny Omega's really good, to be honest. Like,
yeah.
I used to not like him and the books. I still don't really like the books, but I get why Kenny's so popular. Just not best ever, you know.
Okay. And the second part of them is more of the sports entertainer is a tag team. Listen. Right. I love when they come in the ring. Sesame. Yeah, like that's for me. That's so entertaining. Number two, for the fact that they are so current with what they literally say that day. It could be something
Yeah.
hours before or the day before, and you're like, oh, did he kill it? Yeah, he went there, type of thing.
Yeah.
So sorry, I love him, but that's what it is. What it is.
My bad as well. I forgot the question midway through. Then after Isaac's answer, for some reason I thought we were saying best wrestler ever, which is why I reacted like that for Kenny Omega.
No.
So,
current AEW performer, which is why if it's Kenny Omega,
I get it. Yeah,
and even
he
deserves to be in the conversation for best wrestler ever. If for nothing else, for work rate. I mean, all the stuff that he's done in New Japan, you cannot ignore it. The matches he's had with Kazuchika Okada.
I never watched them.
That's on you.
Yeah, but most people don't watch Japan wrestling. No, that's the thing.
That's on
Japanese wrestling is not so much a popular thing.
Oh my goodness! Well, that's on y'all.
Okay.
See, it's one of them though. If it's stuff that you're doing, like same with the indies, if it's stuff you were doing over there, it adds to your name, in my opinion. But you can't really use that as anything. Like AEW and WWE now are like the big things over here. But that's just from this opinion. In Japan, then definitely they can consider it. Or if people watch it.
But I would argue that if you've gone to that style of wrestling, that Japanese strong style, as a gaijin, meaning a non-Asian performer, and excelled at the level that he excelled at, you can't deny that. I mean,
there's got to be a reason.
I mean, I know how a lot of people on this show don't necessarily like Dave Meltzer and the star system and all that, but You look at all of the 5-star classics, and yeah, because it's in the Tokyo Dome, it's going to have 9 stars to start off with, and blah blah blah. You could put it in my backyard, and it would still get 5 stars if Kenny Omega is involved. Usually,
Yeah.
Kenny Omega in an old brown shoe will start off with 5 stars, and we'll go from there. For me, my favorite AEW performers are the Lucha Bros. I love watching the two of them together, especially Rey Fenix. That man is, you should not be able to do the things that he is able to do.
Yeah. He shouldn't do him so much because I just worry he's going to break himself constantly.
Yes,
but...
I mean that's the problem now is he's becoming brittle and he's becoming unavailable.
And one of the things
I've said a lot on this show, like when we're having the GOAT discussions and stuff, your best ability is your availability, and you eventually are going to have to make the choice that we've been wanting Jeff and Matt Hardy to make all these years. Like, tone it back a little bit.
Yeah.
Don't take so much risks. You've got nothing left to prove.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
That's the thing, the Lucha Brothers, and both of them singly as well, they're at the level where if they stay around now, it's a shame they didn't get into like the higher up stuff over here, over in like America or whatever, the Western stuff like earlier, because I could legitimately see them over the next like 10 years becoming goats themselves, like luchadors, maybe best luchador tag team ever, for example.
In my opinion, injuries is the only thing holding them back because they have a mouthpiece. They have Alex Abrahantes as their mouthpiece.
Yeah, I love that.
And every so often, one of them will get on the mic and speak in Spanish, and the crowd goes nuts for it and stuff like that, and that's fine. They let all their matches do the talking.
Yeah.
My last question, and then the rest of you can actually no. KD, give us another question.
Okay. Well, we're all about equal back and forth here. So, most attractive male wrestler.
I'm thinking. I actually have to go. Excuse me. Wow.
What are you going to say, Sami Zayn then?
No, I'm all choked up. If Sami Zayn would trim the beard,
yeah,
effective. But Sammy Guevara will be my answer. If you're going to make me pick a guy, Sammy Guevara will be my answer.
Okay.
The Lovebird would say Randy Orton or Batista, but I'm going to say Sammy Guevara.
Yeah, Roman Reigns seems like an easy answer, but a true one as well, though. Maybe Drew McIntyre, the gruffness, A lot of people like that.
We're taking all of Isaac's answers, KD. Hold on.
Isaac's like, there's too many to think of.
Isaac's looking down the roster of all the promotions to find another attractive male wrestler.
Looking through the list of the male wrestlers and just getting lost in the search.
Nick Comoroto. Here we go. Book it.
Okay, I'm thinking of a wrestler, but I can't remember his name right now. I gotta go with one. It's gotta be.
His name is John Cena. Just kidding.
No, Ricochet.
Oh.
What did you say?
Ricochet.
Ricochet. Yeah, I can see that.
The pretty man.
That dude's just. I mean, I'm not sitting here.
I mean, Pretty Ricky's one of his nicknames, so.
Oh, that's your bag, baby. But I mean, Ricochet's dude's in tremendous shape. Just always looking ready. I don't want to say Finn Balor because that's stealing Brian's thing, but I mean, it is what it is. I'm thinking Ricochet. Sorry about that, Alice. That's just what it is.
I think I might change my answer as well.
It's interesting you bring that question up, though, about you don't see like the heartthrob male wrestler archetype anymore. Probably that used to be a lot, like especially in like Mid-South and stuff like that. Like when the Von Erichs would come out, like all the girls would go nuts for them, and when Ric Flair would come out, and when I remember seeing footage of Magnum TA and stuff.
Oh, well, that's because the only girls that are most likely, the majority of girls watching wrestling right now are not of the age where you would want them like running after the guys in wrestling. Do you know what I mean?
You on that? I disagree with you on that. What like there are some. I mean, there's just a little bit for different people. There's different styles for everybody that's out there, especially when it comes to wrestling.
Yeah.
And the girls like who they like, but again, it's not the same. The Von Erichs, just looked, flowing, blowing hair, the bodies that they had. You didn't have everyone just looking at Shawn Michaels like, oh my God, it's Shawn Michaels, and there wasn't the type for anyone to be like, oh, I'm really feeling this person, or I'm really feeling that person, and
it's more of a subtle thing now too. Like if like I guess they just don't show the crowd reacting that way. Like it's more like just holding a sign up or cheering and stuff like that versus girls going that kind of thing. I mean,
if you ask Jim Cornette, he'll say it's because there's no real men left in wrestling.
Wow.
That depends on who you ask. You ask FTR if there's still real men in wrestling. They'll tell you.
He'd say FTR too as well. To be fair to him, I'd say other people.
Well, I'm just saying that everyone's got. Like I said, if you get 5 guys in a room, they're gonna sit here and say this girl's hot, that girl's hot. But there's some about this girl here that I'm feeling. And hey, I'm not sitting here saying that you're wrong. It's everyone's preference, and they need to put more preference in there. I think. Who was it? God. Someone said it at the Hall of Fame. Oh God, Conan said at the Hall of Fame. He said, "Look, I'm glad that there's more diversity in wrestling than there was before because there was only one thing out there. Now there's more diversity. There's different strokes, different thugs, and that's what it needs to be. It needs to continue to be that way. It can't be one. It can only be one thing because that's not going to appeal to the masses.
Yep.
You have to have a different style."
My final quick fire question for both of you. A classic match that you find yourself rewatching repeatedly.
I don't really do that.
I got one.
KD's like, I only watch matches once and then I'm good.
Yeah.
I ain't got to watch the Firefly Funhouse 39 times to learn everything that Bray Wyatt was trying to say about the wrestling industry.
I did watch that a couple of times actually, though.
Yeah.
Sure, Isaac, get in there. I've stumped our panel.
Rob Van Dam, Jerry Lynn, ECW.
Patrick would love that answer.
Sketch game type of matches I've seen ever. Period. End of story with 2 guys basically at the top of their game. Boom. There you go.
You ask me this question 7 days out of the week, I'm going to give you 7 different answers probably. But the one that just popped into my head while I was waiting for your answers is Triple H versus Stone Cold, the 2 out of 3, the 3 circuit stages of Hell match that they had at No Way Out 2001. Where the first fall was straight wrestling, the second fall was a street fight, and the third fall was inside Hell in a Cell. Or it was either a steel cage or Hell in a Cell. I can't remember. That was carnage. I mean, but and a lot of my favorite matches from that time period have JR on commentary. I mean, JR at that point was in that pocket that we've talked about before when we talked about on-air personalities and stuff like that. He could do no wrong.
Yeah. I think mine, to be fair, the best way to think about it for me would be thinking what match I've watched the most because I've showed it to the most people. And I know what that answer would be. Mankind versus Taker in the Hell in a Cell. That King of the Ring, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yes. That's seared into my brain. I mean, I still don't understand. And having gone to see, like I said a couple weeks ago, having gone to see the man in person on his stand-up tour, sitting in the same room with him while he talked about that, it doesn't compute to me how he survived.
No.
It's just you watch that first fall he took off the cell, and the way his body landed.
Yeah, especially as that was the plan as well. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't even a mistake. That was the plan.
The problem with that whole thing is that he should be dead. And I'm sorry, that's just the bottom line. how he got up from going off of a cage, and then getting on a stretcher, then going on top of the cage, and then going through the cage again, then hitting his head against the chair, and then
Oh, yeah.
then they keep going. Then they got to all that extra stuff. Then they got to the
some
tag.
thumbtacks on top of it.
Like, God,
Yeah.
dude, stop! Just stop! Just.
I mean, you have to
everyone's
get Terry Funk in there for an impromptu choke slam because Mick was still figuring out where he was. Yeah.
That's
All right,
just.
Katie, what else you got?
Oh, what one did I have? Got to. Oh, favorite. Where was it? Favorite champion in all of wrestling currently. Favorite current champion. Best, whichever you wanna.
Favorite current champ? That's a good question, actually.
I think I got mine. I'd say, as much as I love MJF, there's still something off about his world title run for me. I think it would be good if he still had like a Wardlow or something like that. So I think he's missing some Stooges. It's good for him. But other than that, Gunter.
Are we talking individual champion?
Either tag champ, individual.
That's
trio.
easy.
FTR is a good answer.
I'm sorry. I'm just loving everything FTR has been doing. I love everything that they have just been, the matches they've been putting forth, and them just being who they are. I'm sorry. I'm really feeling that.
Can't argue.
I like that Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn got the job done at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
I want to see how fresh they keep their story.
Yeah, I got a little bone to pick with that I want to bring up as well.
I got something to say on that. Katie, go ahead.
Just do it now then. Myself, lately, I've noticed since Sammy's turned face, I'm getting a bit bored with it. Not so much the storyline, which is still kind of just dragging along a little bit now, but more so the way Sammy's acting. He's not acting like that annoying, having fun, being annoying, but just goofing around, like dancing when he's coming out, the obnoxious dancing. He's not doing that. He's a lot more serious right now.
He's more
with
earnest
KO.
and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I was talking
cool,
with somebody at work about this a couple weeks ago, actually, because we were talking about the podcast and what I do. Shout out to Kimberly, by the way. Thank you.
Hello, Kimberly.
You
sound like the Pink Power Ranger, and I like the Pink Power Ranger.
We were talking about how much harder it is in wrestling to be a baby face than a heel.
Oh, yeah.
Baby faces are good for the chase, and this is something that Patrick has tried to drill into my head over the years, ever since I've known him. That baby faces are great for the chase, like climbing up that hill, that kind of thing. But then when they get there, what do you do next? And I think that could be the hang-up that WWE currently has right now with who do you pick to dethrone Roman Reigns, because, okay, what do you do next? Because it's going to be some white-hot babyface. Whether it was going to be Sami Zayn in Montreal, or whether it was going to be Cody Rhodes in LA, or whether it'll still be Cody Rhodes down the road at SummerSlam or whatever. Do you have not the same kind of story in your back pocket, because that's impossible, but what's the next move?
I'd go for a CM Punk style, give him a title reign, but then when best to, flip a switch and just let him turn in mid-reign. It's not done enough where he just goes to being a heel. I loved that when Punk did it. It made it so fresh again, like that title reign.
So, but I guess my favorite, Sammy and Kevin were the first things that popped into my head, but I'm actually digging Indy Hartwell as the NXT Women's Champion, because I did not expect that to happen.
Oh, didn't you have something, Isaac, about Kevin Owens and Sammy?
Yes. They're going to lose the title soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. What? They're going to lose the title very shortly. And the reason being is because...
that's 9 shows in a row now that we've done an LA Knight impersonation, in case you're counting at home.
Yeah. Another weird one.
Yeah. But I don't...
And that is just a fact of life.
Yeah, I know. Brian's digging it. But here's the thing. And and I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this upset, understandably, and I understand the reason why. They're going to lose the titles, and because the Clash of the Champions is in Saudi Arabia.
Oh, right, okay.
And Sammy, we all know, has a problem going to Saudi Arabia. And Kevin, for obvious, let's not even sit here, for obvious reasons. And so they want to probably have the titles there.
Yeah.
That's where the titles come.
But that's going on the assumption, isn't it, that they're going to defend every title, where they've plenty of times in the past, Night of Champions and Clash of Champions have not done that. Like, they've gone against their own thing. I think it's Clash of Champions because it's going to, just like the day before something go on that day, Reigns is going to go to 1,000 days. So I think it's just based around a celebration of Reigns,
I just think that they're going to want to have every belt be defended over in Saudi Arabia because Saudi Arabia is putting up all that money. Mm-hmm. And I think we all know it's blood money, so let's not sit here and talk about the fact
I am out of questions, so if either of you have any more before we move into the future.
Just cut you off with Saudi Arabia then completely.
I was reading the room. Yeah. I got one more. Best tag team in the world right now.
It's probably FTR, I think it's hard to think of anything else.
I don't see how you can pick against FTR.
Yeah.
I mean, the 2022 that they had, and the fact that they're back healthy again and motivated and
finally got the AEW titles back as well.
Yes, I mean, there's very few tag teams in the world right now that are more money in the bank for a great match every time out than FTR.
Yeah, no doubt.
You can't say that about too many of them.
I agree. I really wish I could sit here and say, no, it's somebody else, but it's FTR.
But we thought that this was just opinions.
I'm going to talk about another tag team later on in the discussion about the future.
Okay.
They're not the best in the world right now, but they will be someday.
Okay. I'm all ears.
Mm-hmm.
Any more questions for Quickfire before we segue into the next future?
No.
I'm good.
Well, that being said, thank you, gentlemen, for that. That was actually a nice little departure. Earlier in the week, I fired up the old show chat, and I said, hey, guys, let's look to the future. And I said, come up with names that in 3 years we'll be talking, 3 or 4 years or so, we'll be talking about as the future of the business. Because while we enjoy what's happening right now, 90% of it anyway, with all these promotions and whatnot, as a wrestling fan, you kind of always wonder, well, who's next or what's next? What's coming down the road that is going to be the next superstar or superstars that we're talking about in wrestling. So I asked the gentlemen, the good brothers of Wrestling with Egos, to come up with some names. And it could be a male wrestler, a female wrestler, a tag team, doesn't matter, that in 3 years or so we're going to be talking about, I saw that one coming, and now their box office are the next big thing.
Yeah, over like Rover.
Yes. I will then turn the floor over to either of you gentlemen who would like to start, because I will let you dip your toe in the water and see what you think about it.
I've got a perfect starting one, I think, because his name has already been mentioned, and there's only one name it can be. Yeah, I'm saying it. Yeah, L.A. Knight. Yeah. And that is just a fact of life.
Okay.
No. Hold on a minute. We're not just going to say L.A. Knight and then leave it at that. We're going to talk about. I would like you to be extemporaneous, KD, and regale our listeners and the panel here about why, what you think makes LA Knight a future star in this business.
I think the reason that Isaac was about to like carry on past it, as myself was as well, is because for most of us, it's not something that has to be pointed out. It's like saying, "Why is the sky vast?" It just is. Don't have to point it out.
Can I jump in, Katie?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Okay,
do, because he's not answering the question.
I will. But
Number one, we don't need to sit here and worry about him on the mic.
no.
The in-ring performance, he's very good at what he does.
Yeah, match with Xavier Woods was very good on SmackDown last week.
To be fair, I have to go back and watch that. I'm not all the way caught up on SmackDown yet, so.
I'm not all the way there either. But right now, I mean, but let's just see. Half of it is just the fact that he can talk and he can talk well, and he can get you to do something. So that's number one. You know, he's
the
got
catchphrase is over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at the same time,
merchandise, selling, like merch as well, ain't it?
Yeah, I mean, the merchandise in the past has been something that, the WWE looks and says, they're selling last shirts to push this person. And maybe that's going to change in the future. I do not know. Maybe something's going to get hot.
He's also rumored to be the Money in the Bank. Is the early pick for the Money in the Bank backstage?
If that happens, that would be saying something to me. Like that would be a leap that he could take.
He could imagine him with that briefcase like for close to a year, man. You need somebody that's like good on the mic, to Isaac's point, that can, run with that briefcase for a bit. And LA Knight, yeah, perfect.
Brian, you need to make sure. Excuse me, can you send an ambulance to Brian's house, because he's about to throw up and he might need some chest compression soon. You got me? Thank you. Okay. Back to
do you not like LA Knight, Brian? I hadn't realized this, to be fair.
Okay. Isaac will tell you, and so will Patrick, that I take a while to come around on certain folks.
See.
Okay. Famously, it took me a good 4 or 6 months before I texted these guys about Bray Wyatt when he was doing the Firefly Funhouse stuff, and I'm like, okay, I finally get it now. Because at first it was just unsettling and, creepy and all that kind of stuff. And I, generally speaking, don't go for that kind of stuff. And for me, like, I watch a wrestling show, and when a new character debuts, I sort it into one of two columns. Either, wow, I like this cat, or, that kind of thing.
Mid.
And it takes me, mid, to borrow another person's catchphrase. And to me, I just feel like every time I've seen LA Knight, maybe this is my problem more than anybody else's, because I wasn't watching NXT all the time when he was down there. I know he had a great feud with Cameron Grimes, and I know he had great feuds with other people. For me, like, every time I've seen him, though, like, it hasn't connected very well. Like, the match with Bray Wyatt was supposed to be like this.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was just a bad match, period.
Yeah. A bad lead up to it. The only reason any of that worked out was because of LA Knight, to be fair. He kept that going.
He did, because Bray wasn't there half the time.
Yeah. I mean, we can see that afterwards, because as soon as he got away from LA Knight, as much as I love Bray, he just kind of fell apart. He's obviously not ready to be doing it.
So it's just, he's one of these people that it's going to take me a while to come around on him. It took me a while to come around on Triple H. I used to hate Triple H. Like, I couldn't stand him. I not the in-ring stuff, because I knew that he could go in the ring, but it's just like, again, Patrick and Isaac will tell you that I tend to be averse to heels. There's very few heels that I actually find myself rooting for. That's
Triple
just
H was very good at being
That's
a dick.
just how I, again, very first wrestling I ever watched was WrestleMania 3, and I had no context, and I'm at my dad's friend's living room watching it on pay-per-view, closed circuit pay-per-view or whatever. I'm literally on my knees in front of the TV screaming, "Oh my God, come on, Hulk, you got to do it." And I don't know who Andre the Giant is, but clearly Andre the Giant was cast as the bad guy, ripping Hogan's crucifix off his chest over that. How dare he? Go Hulkster, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how it started. I root for the good guy.
Yeah.
It takes a big investment for me to get on board with a heel, and
you more
I
story driven
hold
then.
his eyes when I bring this up, but Samoa Joe's about the only one that right from the beginning of when I saw him, Samoa Joe's really never been a babyface, at least since I've seen him. Maybe he was for a while in TNA and whatnot.
He was.
But usually when I see him, it's a heel. It's Wendy and that kind of thing. And
he's still a badass babyface as well, though.
yes,
so
and maybe that's what it is. Is just I there's something about Joe's swagger and his mic skills and his look like that I got hip to. But that's the exception rather than the rule. I generally do not go for the heel right away. It takes me a long time to warm up to it. And I realize that I'm rhapsodizing for 20 minutes about why I'm anti-LA Knight. I don't mean to crap on the fact that you guys think he's the future.
I don't think you can. You can't crap on. I mean, it's pretty hard to pull down. Trying to think of a better way to put it, because I just remembered that a lot of Americans are much more religious than me. So I'm going to go a different way with it. Come back to me.
Okay. Isaac, why don't you give us a name that is not LA Knight? Because we will skip it. Everybody loves LA Knight, apparently.
I mean, to be fair, man, he is just. I think he's going to be. If they do it right, he could be a player for a good few years.
Okay. I keep sitting here in the back of my mind trying to think whose name is going to keep coming up. And I couldn't just nail down 3. So I'm going to mention a couple, then I'm going to give some honorary mentions to some people that you're going to sit there and say, you know what, yeah, we see you. We see you coming. Same thing that Jay-Z did when he called up Lil Wayne and said, I see you. And Lil Wayne was like, he sees me coming as the best rapper in the world. I'm going to sit here and start off.
Keep the honorable mentions to the end if you can, though, like till after, in case we say one.
First, I got Carmelo Hayes. You see he's coming. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the swagger's on point. He's got it. He's got that F factor. He's got that F factor. We can all smell it from here. In a couple of years, he's going to be there. He's going to be ready to go. I'm not going to sit here and try and sell you on him, because all you need to do is watch NXT and be like, okay, I see you. I see you on that.
One thing I'll interject really quick about Carmelo Hayes. Carmelo Hayes has a legitimate chance to be what we all thought Velveteen Dream was going to be before all the legal trouble happened and all that kind of stuff. Because Velveteen Dream, lest we forget,
he was cool at one point.
On the path to superstardom.
Yeah, man, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
So that's I see Carmelo Hayes on a similar trajectory. I'm not talking about all the crap. I'm talking about in ring, on the mic.
Yeah. Good.
Please don't get it twisted. But Carmelo Hayes is as smooth as butter in the ring, on the microphone, all that stuff. Keep going, Isaac.
Next person I keep thinking about. Actually 2 female names. One is Ava, the Rock's daughter.
Okay.
She's coming up. I see her. I also see Cora Jade coming. She's got some, and if they give her a little time to sit here and mellow into certain things, you're gonna sit there and say, yeah, I see her.
What I like about Cora Jade is she's proven that she can be a face or a heel, because she's already been both.
Like I said, yes. You see,
she's done pretty well for herself.
Absolutely. I know that we were all very disappointed at the Monday night after Raw, and that was just the biggest pile of crap we've ever seen. But the lottery coming up for Monday Night Raw and SmackDown is when some people's cards going to start getting pulled. And, You know, I got someone like I was disappointed that Braun Breaker wasn't called up, and he may be called up after this.
I think he'll be there in the draft. I reckon.
Too. You know, I think that he's going to be someone we're going to be sitting there talking about main eventing, you know, against, you know, Roman Reigns.
You could see him being the next kind of John Cena type style, couldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. You can see the same thing in Austin Theory.
Maybe even better than Cena.
I'm sorry, I'm throwing out a lot of names here, but there's
Yeah.
a lot of people that sit here and see, okay, I can see that person getting there. And with the fact that Cena, you know, made him WrestleMania and put a stamp on him, you know it means something. You just don't give the rub to somebody like that if you don't think they're the future. You know, I would be remiss if I didn't say Dominic Mysterio. You see it coming.
That's true. Actually, I hadn't thought about him.
You know, I mean, we can argue about it all day. But you see it. You know, he's got
I don't
the
think there's
talent.
an argument. I'm trying to think of somebody who's grown as exponentially as Dominic has. And yes, he's been surrounded by a lot of people from whom to learn from. One of which is his dad, obviously.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
But it's one thing to be surrounded by all of those instructors, you know, Ray, Finn Balor, Damian Priest, Rhea Ripley, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The guys in Latino World Order he gets to work with, you know, all that stuff. But you've got to then take that knowledge and apply it. You know, that's what we do at school. We take knowledge and we apply it. We go up the ladder, Bloom's taxonomy and all that. Dominic is getting over every single time. He's got nuclear heat that I haven't seen since Vicky Guerrero would take the microphone.
Yeah.
I mean, remember who his first match against was, and that was against, you know, that was against Seth freaking Rollins.
Forgot all about that.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, let's not sit here.
That beat him with the kendo stick. Oof.
I mean, yeah, let's not sit here and just forget that he got thrown into
I'll
the fire.
throw a name out there really quick. My first name. It's a tag team. And it's an up-and-coming tag team that I've been really keen on watching the last several months because they are your classic throwback tag team in every sense of the word because they have matching ring gear, which I think is important if you're a tag team. They have matching styles. It's not a high flyer and a ground-based guy. They're both ground-based guys pretty much. And I'm talking about the Creed brothers. Those two...
Okay, I see you on that.
They're decent enough on the microphone, but they don't. What I like about them is they don't spend a lot of time talking. They don't overstay their welcome on the microphone. They say they say their piece, and they start suplexing you all over the place and fall away slams and all that kind of stuff. They do a little bit of high flying, but they don't. That's not their bread and butter. But they're smooth as silk in the ring too. I feel like they've got some big things coming too.
I don't think I've ever heard of these guys before. I'm just having a look at them. I don't recognize their names or anything.
They're in the Diamond Mine stable right now, what's left of it, in NXT.
Okay.
Stokely Hathaway was before he left and went to AEW.
Okay.
Roderick Strong was the head of Diamond Mine way back when, but now it's kind of just them, and they have a valet with them. I think Ivy Niles her name.
Oh, right. Is that the woman with the chains?
Yes, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I like the look of them.
They're no nonsense. They're just very, and there's something to be said, like, and they remind me a lot of a young FTR.
I was just thinking exactly that then.
Yeah, I mean, they got, the buzz cuts and all that stuff and the singlets, and it's nice to see, it's refreshing to see a tag team like that not being jobbers.
FTR with a bit of world's greatest tag team in there as well.
Yes. That's a good shout.
Yeah.
Isaac, get in there.
Let me jump in real quick. Another tag team that we should be talking about.
Don't talk about LA Knight anymore, or I'm cutting you off.
Yeah. And that is a fact of life.
What are we talking about?
I said don't talk about LA Knight anymore. You already talked.
You made you say it again.
I said a tag team.
Okay, good.
So when did
LA Knight 2?
Who he tagging with this week?
Exactly. Look, I'm gonna mention two guys. They're both brothers. But it's AEW, and I'm talking about the Martins. And they're young and up and coming, and they're very, very talented. And I think that they can go with anybody, especially with FTR, with Private Party. They can go with, any tag team that's out there. And they're young, up and coming, hungry. And I think they're
We
going
know
to be
the
doing
Bucks have no problem putting them over.
exactly. These are guys that you sit there and say, I know there's a lot of politics, especially in wrestling. Who's going to get this? Who's going to get this? But you sit there, you look at these young cats and what they can do, and you sit back and say, "Okay, I see you. I see you coming. 3 years from now, I see them. Oh, I see you. You know."
KD, give us another name.
I was going to go one way, but I've just thought of someone, and it's a much better one, so I'm going to go with that. Over the next 3 years, Solo Sikoa. He's just everything about him, man. You can see they think a lot of him as well. And his
I'm
look,
hearing
his presence.
a lot of rumblings that he might be the one that ultimately does in Roman.
He won't take the title, but he'll
the
beat him down.
execution is how it is going to be important there. If they do it that way, there's got to be. It can't just be, he inserts himself into a triple threat or something, Samoan Spike and a pin. It's got to be, the long game kind of thing.
Would you reckon it would be like, for the title or not? Like, are we talking like a Batista Rumble type storyline, maybe?
Yeah, it's got to be.
It's been a long time since they've done that. They like going back to stuff like that and doing callbacks to things like that.
I think I'd prefer him to do it without the title being involved.
It's got to be involved. It's family.
I think Cody should take the title and then maybe do dissolution of the bloodline in general comes after with Solo and him mainly. And the Usos torn,
You think they got to do it that way because, it's family. And this is, Roman's family. And Roman's at the top. And the same thing that happened with Randy Orton and same thing that happened with Triple H and Batista and Ric Flair being in there. And it's just the simple fact that Rick was always saying to Batista that when it's right now, it's Triple H's time. And eventually it'll be your time, but your time is not right now. You're looking at Solo and you're thinking to yourself, eventually it's going to be his time. And Paul's going to sit here and say, this is your tribal chief. You need to follow him. And eventually you're going to get that same way, but you're not there yet. And you can see Paul saying that crap eventually. And it's going to have to be some way along those lines and go from there. And, eventually he will. Can I throw out one more name?
Please do.
Grayson Waller. No, this kid's brash, outrageous. He's an early jerk off, just like a Shawn Michaels, if not worse. I mean, he can talk on the mic. He uses a lot of social media. He's annoying. He's just jackass. That's what he is. But you sit here and he keeps winning matches. He loves putting his body on the line without thinking twice about it. This is a guy that you're going to sit here and say, yeah, I see him in a couple of years. I mean, it's just a lot of things out there that you sit there and say, I see him in a couple of years. The same thing as a Raquel Rodriguez. In a few years, she's going to be. They're just putting her in tag matches because right now, they really aren't matching
still
up against a Bianca Belair or anyone else at that level. But she
Raquel is in a unique position because one of the things that we love lauding Rey Mysterio about is his connection with the Hispanic community.
Yeah.
How he brings the culture out. I feel like Raquel Rodriguez is positioned to do that also. And not just the Latin community in general, the Hispanic community in general, but especially the young girls.
Absolutely.
Because we all know how much these girls love having somebody to look up to, like a Bianca Belair.
It's important as well.
The girls that came out of WrestleMania.
That was so cool. That was, yeah.
With Bianca.
If
You
you
know,
got if you've
you know
had
how
kids, you
much
couldn't
they look
help
up-
but see that and be like,
Yeah.
oh,
we know how much they look up to Charlotte Flair and look up to Becky Lynch and Bailey, and they look up to
Mercedes.
Mercedes Moné and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff.
I've got another name in a second as well, then to go along with this too.
All right, I'll give you my last one because we all know that occasionally here on Wrestling with Egos, Brian likes to increase the degree of difficulty just a little bit. He wants to go off the beaten path because it's all about broadening your horizons here on Wrestling with Egos. It's all about elongating your worldview. So let me take you to New Japan Pro Wrestling, if I may. And I'll give you the name of a young lion over there who I investigated a little bit this week in preparation for this topic, and who does strong style about as good as anybody they have over there right now. Yes, he's a young lion, which means he gets beat up quite a bit, but he can give just as well as he gets. Remember the name of Kosei Fujita. If you don't know, YouTube him. There's a couple highlights on there, not much because
I'm going to need you to spell it. I'm not going to lie.
Kosei, Kosei.
Yep.
Fujita, Fujita. Do yourself a favor, ladies and gentlemen. YouTube him and watch a couple of the highlight packages they have on there. He does strong style very, very, very well.
For anyone who's a bit unsure, obviously not any of this distinguished panel here tonight, but for anyone listening or watching the great universe of Wrestling with Ego, please let them know exactly what strong style consists of. For anyone else, is not sure.
Strong style is not your Americanized style of wrestling. It's not WWE wrestling. It's kicks to the back and kicks to the side of the head and kicks to the shins and kicks to the shoulders. And it's very high impact, stiff. It's what Shinsuke Nakamura did before he came to NXT pretty much. And what he did a little bit at the beginning of his run in NXT, but he gradually kind of got away from.
He kind of figured out a way to make it look quite impactful but at the same time safe. I think Shinsuke did.
Right.
I like that they're
but if
pushing him again.
If you go down and watch a Young Lions match in New Japan, that's where you see the strong style more than anything. Because the top guys, Tanahashi's not doing that anymore because of his age. Okada's, getting out of the point where he can still do it, because these people are all advancing in age.
Minoru Suzuki just carries on doing it because he's Minoru Suzuki.
And all hail Minoru Suzuki, by the way.
He is
I don't know
badass.
that I would. Patrick asked the question all the time. Name your price to take a couple chops from Walter. I'd have to name my price to take anything from Minoru Suzuki because that man could rip me to shreds in feet. And he's 50-something years old, by the way.
He's experienced.
But Kosei Fujita seemed to me like a kid that they're probably grooming him to be a very important player because he's already in a stable over there. I think he's in there's a big name. I think he's in Zack Sabre Jr.'s stable, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh.
It's either him or Will Ospreay. It's one of the two.
Oh, you know what? Zack Sabre Jr. I think I confuse the two a lot.
Well, Zack Sabre Jr. is from the UK.
Yeah.
And Ospreay is from Australia.
Yeah, Australia.
It's
in the local, it's in the Commonwealth.
Yes.
Our brothers over there in Aussie land,
As a sidebar, really quick, KD, have you seen a lot of ZSJ matches? Seeing as how your fellow countryman?
Zack Sabre. Well, no, I mean, for example, I just accidentally typed in his name as Zack Sabre Ospreay. That probably says it all.
That's probably why you're not going to find anything. I mean, they've now they've wrestled each other, and you could do worse than watching a match involving the two of them. It'll be a masterpiece.
Zack Sabre Jr. is just a name that I've seen, because I always used to read the a lot of the indie stuff what was going on, but never watch it. And Zack Sabre Jr. was one that's always popped up, As an English guy, I always took note.
He's probably one of the top 3 technical wrestlers in the world, in my opinion. I mean, if you're going to have me make a list, Saber's on there.
Yeah,
Ospreay's really good as well. He gets some
amazing.
people don't really don't like him.
It's a shame that Ospreay is not in a promotion that can utilize him and give him to the masses. I think that's Ospreay's problem, is that he doesn't come to America that often.
Yeah.
And that's where you would really explode. And I know the smart marks out there and the smart fans, like, friend of show RJ, shout out to you, RJ. I know that you know all about Will Ospreay and respect, the crap out of him and all that, but I'm talking about your casual wrestling fan who fits in this little box of I only watch WWE or AEW or whatever.
Yeah, like I was saying before, the only a small amount of people, a small part of the fan base of wrestling, a small part of them go on to watch like the Japanese stuff,
Right. And that's
a lot of the indie stuff, etc.
And I keep advancing the narrative that that's what I've done, but because it's true. I mean, I was in that box for the longest time, and through meeting people and getting exposed to different styles of wrestling the way I have, I mean, I'm sounding the bell. You need to watch this stuff. You need to seek it out, educate yourself, because there's more out there than just, stuff like this and stuff like this. And,
there's a lot of good stuff, but for me, it's just my wrestling's always been story driven, like I said earlier. That's the thing I focus on. So it's quite hard to watch Japanese wrestling.
And they would argue that they are telling stories. They're just using a different format. They're just using.
Well, they're using a different language, like there's nothing against it. I just can't understand that language. It's hard for me to get into the story.
Isaac, get in there.
Just 1 second, real quick. To bounce off what Brian just said, I particularly wasn't familiar with a lot of the people that were coming over, especially Will Ospreay, the Kingdom, a lot of those guys that came over from Forbidden Door. If you go back and look at the Wrestling with Egos archives, you can see that the night that, it was myself, Patrick, Brian, and RJ, I didn't pretty much say anything. They were like, well, why aren't you saying nothing? It was because I didn't know these guys. And I'm gonna be blunt and honest and say, this is one time I definitely shut the hell up, which is, as everyone knows,
that's why
do.
I am thankful that AEW and Tony Khan have developed some kind of a partnership, a working relationship with New Japan.
Yeah,
because
it is good.
The people that we get that I personally get to see, like the fact that I get to see guys like Will Ospreay on television every once in a while, or guys like Bandito. Guys like, pardon?
Go absolutely.
And I'm sure there's some names I'm leaving out. Like my God, the night Okada walked out on Dynamite, I almost fell over. I'm like, oh my God, it's freaking Kazuchika Okada. Hiroshi Tanahashi got to wrestle Jon Moxley at Forbidden Door. I mean, just the fact that I get to be exposed to them on American television, because it can be difficult to seek these Japanese matches out, because maybe you get like reaction videos or you get like snippets. You don't get the whole match because it's behind a paywall.
Yeah.
But you get what you can,
And obviously, nobody in the wrestling community or any community there, to be fair, would ever watch it illegally. Or
no. We don't endorse that here at Wrestling.
No.
I mean, we want you to, because everybody's working for a living.
Yeah.
You gotta get out there and you gotta get that content however you can. We get
WWE need that money. Let's be honest. They need it.
They're getting my $9.99 once a month.
Yeah. Well,
any more names, gentlemen, that you feel like you need to add to this discussion?
I do have a little trio, you might say, of ladies to throw out there. I'll go with the first one over in AEW. I've been seeing her doing some things, and she's like an up and comer. She was quite green when I first saw her, but she's just been there the whole time in the background, and she's just getting a lot better. She's getting really smooth, so I could see her. They really should take advantage of her, like over the next few years. Sky Blue.
Okay.
She's just Yeah, if you check her out, she's just looking really smooth, you know.
Because we've talked about this on the show before with the women of AEW. They need to be in the ring. They need to be,
Yeah.
Whether it's on Elevation or Dark or whatever, those few times they might get on Rampage or whatever. Because you need to cultivate the depth. And you're starting to see it come to fruition with people like Sky Blue.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, she was on Dynamite against Soraya, like a few weeks ago.
Let me jump in real quick, Katie. I totally agree with what you're saying. AEW's had the problem. They have girls that are still a little green. Still don't know how to get to that next level.
Yeah.
And some of them have the body and the look to be a champion. A certain person has the belt right now who shouldn't have the belt. When you sit here and look at the people that are in there, they're making them look fantastic. I'm sorry, let's just call it what it is. Jade Cargill, you should not have the title. You like $1 million, but you basically are a dime, and that's not it. That's not
It's too early for that. It is too early.
when you have a Saraya, when you have
Taya Valkyrie, man, she looks good.
Who?
Is Taya Valkyrie, or is she going by a different name now?
When you have someone of that caliber, a Taya Valkyrie that's coming in, you have someone like a Saraya that's here. You have Dr. Baker, DMD. Yes, let's not sit here and talk about this. Let's talk about those people that you have that you could sit here and promote the hell out of.
Nia Jax, they should really make a point of like her being like a trans athlete if she's okay with that, because there's a whole,
you mean Nyla Rose?
Who did I say?
You said Nia Jax.
Okay, yeah, I meant Nyla Rose. Sorry, sorry, Nia Jax. I guess
Nyla Rose.
But yeah, I mean, there's a whole fan base there that would appreciate.
Beginning, is that right?
Yeah.
But she's kind of fallen into a little bit more obscurity and stuff like that. She's not doing as much on television right now. I don't know why.
Definitely. Yeah, same.
I just, there's a lot of people that, we sit here and say they need to sit here and start developing, especially when it comes to the women's division.
Now, if this new TV show that AEW is rumored to be coming out with on Saturday nights comes to pass, I forget what Collision or something. I forget what it's called, but a strong part of that show had better be developing the women's roster because they can't carve out TV time.
Are they gonna? They're talking about a soft brand split, aren't they? Because of Punk and the Elite and stuff, which is a terrible thing. If that's true,
I'll believe that when I see it. I mean,
the whole soft brand split, but the reason for it is what's terrible, and it's never gonna work. You can't keep them separate in the same company, nor should you.
I agree.
Yeah.
But that is another subject for another time. Yeah. In fact, that might be a good thing to dive into next week as we get closer to the anticipated return of one CM Punk. And trust me when I say this, gang, we're not going to do a watch along of the episode where CM Punk comes back this time because let's just say his currency with the folks on Wrestling with Egos is kind of short right now.
I don't think Punk did that. The only thing Punk did wrong was the media scrum. That whole thing that wasn't good. But Hangman
that's the only thing. That's a pretty big one thing.
Yeah, Hangman had already started it though. He went off script and stuff, didn't he? Which is, I think the main person at fault is fucking Tony Khan for not getting the shit in order. I've got one more name to throw out, which I think is an important one because it goes to the point of how WWE are always thinking about the next generation of wrestlers, and these ones are definitely going to be known in the next 3 to 5 years. Hayley and Hannah Cavinder, the Cavinder twins. They're going to be up there.
That's another interesting situation there because I read that story and I'm like, okay, so there's not one Charlotte Flair, there's two of them because they're great natural athletes. They got the look, they got the skills.
Depends There's a lot of athletes though that still don't look as smooth as say a Charlotte Flair. There's some people that are amazing athletes, but are still they don't get it as much. You know, you have to really get it. So we'll
And
say,
we know what wonders the Performance Center can do for you. I mean,
yeah,
you look
yeah.
at people that have come out of the Performance Center as closer to finished products and stuff like that. That's going to be a good one. I'm pretty impressed with that name, Katie. To wrap it up.
Thank you very much. I thought you'd like.
So, with an eye on the future, you know, write down this list for posterity, and we're going to revisit it in a couple of years, and we'll see how on the nose we were, or how off the reservation we might have been. Thank you as always for joining us and making us part of your wrestling week. So for everyone associated with the show, and specifically for KD and for Isaac, this is Brian, the intellectual savior of the wrestling masses, and this has been the latest episode of Wrestling with Egos. We thank you so much for your support. We thank you for watching and consuming. And remember, at Wrestling with Egos, discussions like the future are why we love professional wrestling.
LA Knight for triple Grand Slam champion in 5 years. Yeah.